Word Wranglers, Allie here. I'm an editor and book coach, and I'm here to help you love your voice, love your story, and share it with the world. I really believe that if you've got a book inside you, you've got a burning desire to write, then you're meant to write that book, and you can write that book, and I'm hopefully going to help you along the way. So today, instead of writing tips, we're going to talk a little bit about mindset, because there are certain mindsets and ways of thinking that can really scunner you as an author and make you feel really bad about what you're doing. So let's tackle some of those, and hopefully by doing that you'll become more aware of them and less likely to fall into them. Let's dive in. Now, one of the biggest mistakes you can make as an author is to keep telling yourself that you're a failure. And we're going to, at the end of this video, I am going to tackle what you actually do about these things, because I realise there's not a lot of point in sharing them if I'm not going to give you some tips. So I do know that this is a hard one to break and that you're not going to just break it right now, but it's worth working on breaking this one, because I see so many authors who define themselves as a failure constantly, whether it's because the writing isn't as good as you want it to be, or the plot isn't working, or you're not writing as much as you want to. We'll talk about more of that in point 2. Stop telling yourself all the ways in which you're failing as a writer, because when you do that, you're making yourself dread writing. You're turning it into this painful, awful thing that you're going to be mean to yourself about. And it's like imagining a critic as a separate person who just stood in your room and screamed at you about everything you were doing wrong constantly. It would be really hard to get enthusiastic about your writing if that was happening. So what I'm saying is, don't be that person for yourself. Stop telling yourself all the ways in which you're failing, okay? So mindset habit 2 that you want to break as a writer is defining yourself by your word count. I see this so much, and I think it's fueled by, you see these people on TikTok and they've got these amazing setups and they're writing all these words, and if you go on like writers groups around the internet, you are definitely going to find a lot of people who sometimes really well-meaning, but they tend to espouse this idea of, if you want to be a writer, you must write, and you must sit down and you must have these goals and you must meet them. And okay, yes, of course, if you want to write a book, you do in fact need to write the book. That goes without saying. But beating yourself into it rarely works, unless you're the sort of person who responds really well to the kind of like boot camp mentality. But if you're not, all you're doing is beating yourself up and making yourself feel terrible. You are not actually defined by your word count. Yes, if you go through periods where you can't write a lot or you're writing less per day, then yes, your book is going to take you a little bit longer to write. That's not actually the end of the world. Unless you've got a very specific deadline for a very specific reason, it's actually fine if you end up going a little bit slower. This is not a catastrophe. And the more you beat yourself up and try to force yourself to write a certain amount of words, the harder it's going to be for you to actually write any words. So don't define your success or your worth as a writer by how many words you've written today. So another mindset mistake I see writers making a lot is taking unsolicited I'm not going to re-record that bit, it was only one word. Unsolicited criticism too much to heart. Now, constructive criticism from a coach or an editor or a beta reader, I mean, I will at some point probably do a whole video about constructive criticism and how to respond and how to receive it. But I'm talking about people that aren't in the writing world, they're not avid readers, maybe like a friend or a family member, someone in your life who doesn't really support what you're doing or doesn't really get what you're doing, and is definitely not someone who knows how to give really good criticism. I see so many writers, the first person who read the book will be like, well, I didn't like this chapter, or I didn't like this character, or I don't like your tone, point of view, whatever it is. And they will kind of just panic and take that to mean that the entire thing is terrible, they shouldn't have written it, and it will never be good, and it will never be published, and on and on and on and on it goes. If you have any form of anxiety, I'm sure you can relate to this as I can. It's really important to start learning not to do this to yourself. Again, constructive criticism, slightly different topic, and we will talk about that at another point on this channel. But let's call this destructive criticism. Destructive criticism, don't take it to heart, because that person is not the boss of you. Their one opinion is not the sole opinion in the universe that counts. Don't let one person tear down what you're doing. And this takes real practice. It does involve growing thicker skin. And that's hard. And I'm not going to pretend it's not, because it is. It is a lifetime's work to build up more resilience and to be able to just let it be like water off a duck's back. but it's worth doing the work, because then you're not having the power for other people to tear you down with a few words and put you off something that you love and want to do, because it's your life and it's your book, and nobody should get to do that to you. Another common writing mindset mistake is writing too much for others. I mean, this is a little difficult because yes, if you're writing to publish, at some point you do want to give your readers a positive experience where they're going to give you a good review and buy your next book. That's natural. But writers can get too caught up in what the imaginary reader or the future reader is going to think too soon in the process. I see a lot of writers get very tripped up on, is this okay? Is this a weird plot? Is this a weird thing to do with the character? Will people like this? Is it too tropey? What if people don't read it? What if it's been done too many times before? All kinds of things. And what they're basically doing is they're kind of asking for permission from often random strangers on the internet, let's be honest, for whether it's okay to write the book they want to write. So if you need it, here's your blanket permission. Write the book you want to write. Now, I think the permission comes from you, not from me, but just in case it helps to hear, give yourself permission to write your book, because no matter what you do with it, whatever genre, whatever tropes, anything, it's your spin and how you execute it. It's how you build the world, it's how you make the characters compelling. All of that is so much important than has it been done before, or is there a market for this? Go on Amazon, go to a bookstore, look around. There are books on pretty much everything you can think of. Especially these days, there's things like, reverse harems, shifters. Of course, there's always like things like fairies and vampires, fantasy, romance. It's obviously very popular for a reason. That's why there are so many happy ever after books out there. Happy ending, I think that's what I meant to say there. My point being, whatever it is that you want to write, write it. Because nobody else can tell you whether it's a good idea. You can turn practically anything into a good idea if you execute it correctly. But the thing that I'm always saying, so you're going to hear me say this multiple times if you stick around on the channel, you're actually the one that has to write it. You're the one that has to sit down, get your phone or your keyboard or whatever, your typewriter, handwriting, whatever it is you're doing, you have to sit down and write the words. So you get the say over what book you write, not somebody else, because they're not going to write it for you. Write the thing that you want to write, because that will give you enthusiasm and motivation. All the nitty-gritty and the technical bits and the craft, all of that can be dealt with later, but you can't fix not loving your own story, so you have to write the one that calls to you. I hope that helps a bit. Another thing to avoid as a writer is talking yourself down and shaming yourself. It's really easy, and I think we went into this a little bit in the imposter syndrome video as well. It's really easy to look at what other people are doing and then compare yourself negatively. Well, I can't write like that, and I'm not writing that many words, and I don't have that many fans, and it's also really easy to feel kind of silly if you don't know something, like, maybe someone tells you about head hopping for the first time, then you feel silly because you should have known that. Or you write your blurb, but because you know your book really well, you miss out a key piece of information. It's really easy to go, oh no, that's so silly, I should have known that. Please try and stop doing this to yourself. One of my favourite phrases in general, but especially in writing, is you don't know what you don't know. I mean, you know better, you do better. That's actually two phrases. You don't know what you don't know. Maybe you didn't know about head hopping or changing tenses too often, or this thing's a common mistake in a blurb or a synopsis, or this is a bit cliche. But if you didn't know, then you didn't know. You don't need to beat yourself up for not knowing the thing. Now you know, decide what to do with the information, decide if you'd like to change what you're doing in any way to match this new information, and go forth. Basically, be kind to yourself. It's okay to not know things. It's okay that you're learning and going. It's okay that you're growing. This is all a normal part of the process, and you don't need to make yourself feel bad for it. A number 6 mindset mistake that I see authors making is kind of a bit of a combination of all the ones we've already talked about, and that is letting others define your worth. Whether that's other people's opinion on your plot, whether that's somebody you say you want to write a book and they laugh at you, or you've already published a book but they look down on you and, oh, can I read it? But you can tell they don't want to read it to give you a good review. Or somebody who, doesn't like the way you're plotting, or they don't like your viewpoint, or, you've seen some things online that have made you kind of feel that you would be looked down on for writing a certain thing, or because you're not writing a certain amount of words. All of these things, which we've talked about in this video, they all kind of fall under this umbrella of letting other people define your worth as a writer. And one of the best things you can do for yourself as an author is to start building the habit of not letting other people define your worth. And this is difficult, And I know that, and I know it's hard, but it's really, really worth it, because if you're going to let other people define your worth as a writer, whether it's your actual writing plot ideas, or whether it's simply other people not getting what it is to be a writer and kind of laughing at you or not really understanding it, anytime you're given that power to other people, taking it away from yourself. If you want to write this book, you're not hurting somebody by writing a book. Write your book. Don't let yourself get to the end of your life, sorry to go a little bit morbid here, and wish you'd written a book. Don't do that to yourself. You deserve better. Write your book. You can take a class, you can read, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can read blogs, take well-priced courses, go around the writing community, learn from other writers. You can work with a coach or an editor. There's lots you can do. If you do want some help and support along the way, that's fine. But you can always improve your craft. You can always learn more. But don't let other people define your worth as a writer. Don't let their opinions decide whether you should write this book, or whether you're good enough to write this book, or whether this book is a good enough idea. None of that is for them to decide. That is only for you to decide. And this is something I feel so strongly about, that I know we're going to be talking about this again in the future. You get to decide your worth as a writer. Not me, not anybody else on the planet. You do. So don't let anybody else do that for you. So all this is great, but you're probably wondering what to do about it. What to do about it is deceptively simple, but it takes practice. And that's what I want you to take away from this video. You're basically learning to notice when you're falling into any of these tricks, you know, letting other people define your worth, talking down to yourself, define yourself by your word count, telling yourself you're a failure. I don't need to recap the entire video, but basically if you're falling into these things, you want to get in the habit of realising when you're doing that, of realising when you're falling into these habits, and then you want to start building better ones. Now, building better habits around this, it really is as simple as learning to talk better to yourself. Notice I said simple, not easy. I don't want you to come at me and be like, well, yeah, Allie, it's not that easy. Believe me, I know. But try to start building these better habits. And that it looks different for other people. I mean, for some people, it could be like doing affirmations in the mirror. I'm a big fan of affirmations. Not ashamed to say I'm a huge fan of Louise Hay. Not all above looking in the mirror and saying nice things to myself. That's one way you can do it. You can write things down. You can put little notes around. You can visualise, like if somebody kind of sends some negative like criticism that you didn't ask for your way, visualise a shield around yourself. There's loads of different ways you could approach this. But what you're basically looking to do, just to reiterate here, you're looking to notice when you fall into these habits and building ways to stop doing that. Building ways to be nicer to yourself. Catch yourself when you're doing these things. If your brain starts saying horrible things to you about yourself as a writer, you can just say, thanks for sharing, and then just let it go. And you know, you can even build in like sort of little mantras that you keep for yourself when these things happen. For example, one of my favourite ones for if people are just basically being asses, let's be honest, and they're not helpful and they don't get you, you can just repeat to yourself, they don't have to get it. They don't have to get it. Say it with me now. They don't have to get it. Like, the more you can build that into your mindset, the better. Another good one is, oh, let them. You know, like if somebody's criticising you, and again, we're not talking constructive criticism, different video. If somebody's unnecessarily criticising you or making you feel bad about your writing process or your ambitions to be a writer, let them. Just let them. You know, you don't have to play their game. You don't have to join in on being horrible to yourself or make yourself feel bad. Let them. That's their opinion. Another one I learned a long time ago, which I really love, is return to sender. Like if somebody, again, disrespecting you, negative feedback that you didn't ask for, just return to sender. Return to sender. Return to sender. I hope you say these with me. If not, I want you to go back and watch the video and say them. Just, you know, build up these phrases. Build up yourself. Practice taking a step back and not letting other people define your worth. Practice going back to, it's my book. I'm the one who has to write it. I'm the one who gets the say. Just keep doing it. It is, as I said, it's deceptively simple. I know it's not that easy to do. I know it sounds really easy for me to say. This is a practice. I've been a professional writer, mostly in copywriting and ghostwriting since 2008. And I still have to practice this. As an editor, sometimes if I'm doing like heavy editing, I will actually go in and rewrite bits of the text, and I still have to practice building myself up and building up my boundaries and building up my sense of self-worth. It does take time, but you will get better and better at it. And like a lot of things that are difficult but worth it, it is worth putting in the time and mental effort to start fixing your mindset around writing, because the payoff is you're going to enjoy it more, you're going to take on other people's opinions less, and you're going to have an easier path and a greater chance of actually doing the thing and getting the thing out into the world. So it's worth it to put in the work. So I hope these mindset tips helped you to spot some pitfalls to avoid. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm here every week sharing tips about writing craft, mindset, and working with an editor. If there's anything particular you want me to cover, I'm always open to suggestions. You're welcome to comment, or you can visit www.authorvoicealchemy.com to learn more about what I do and how I can help you get your book into the world. And I will speak to you again soon.